Sicario was released in 2015, is directed by Denis Villeneuve, and stars Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin. Now, the reason I'm reviewing this movie is because its sequel, Sicario 2 Soldado, is out very, very soon, and to be honest, I will pretty much take any opportunity to review a Denis Villeneuve movie because he is slowly becoming one of my favourite directors, so I pretty much jumped at the chance to review this film, seeing that the sequel is out pretty much this Friday. Before I properly get into the review, I thought I might make it clear that Sicario, though it is really good, isn't really one of my favourite Denis Villeneuve films. And that's saying something, because, like I said, it is still a good movie, and for the last 5 years, he's released a movie every year, and they've all been either really good or fantastic. So again, that is saying something. But I feel like, compared to his other movies like Prisoners or Blade Runner 2049 or even Arrival, this one kind of lacks that rewatchability that something like Blade Runner 2049 has. You can constantly go back to that movie, whether it be the visuals, the acting, or its intricate plot, and there will always be something new for you to find with that movie. But with Sicario, you can pretty much take everything in on a first viewing, and there's nothing that really warrants multiple rewatches. But that being said, I am glad I rewatched this movie for this review because my opinion has ever so slightly changed on it since I first saw it a couple of years ago. So we might as well start with the positives, and one of the best aspects of the movie is its cinematography. It's helmed by Roger Deakins, who I think for most people is their favourite cinematographer, at least he is for me. And here he does create some really, really beautiful shots. I do think his work on Prisoners and Blade Runner 2049 is a bit more visually striking. But that being said, he still is able to get away with some really nice looking shots, especially towards the third act of the film, during this incredible scene that takes place during the night time. The amount of different techniques and the variety of, things they're able to do to really make that scene work to the best of its ability is really cool to see. They don't just stick to one way of filming it. They try a load of different techniques and things, and it really does pay off. The acting is great in this movie. I think it works well with the way it's shot for kind of a 1-2 punch that make this film better than it really should be. Emily Blunt is fantastic in this film. I think this is probably the best performance I've seen from her. You can really tell that she, at times, really doesn't like the job that she's doing. And the fact that, for the most part, the audience is following her through this situation and she's not really being given much information on anything kind of makes you as frustrated as her, in a good way. You want to know what exactly it is they're doing, but she's not being told anything, so she is just as clueless as we are, and that really works for this film. I can't really explain why, but it just kind of adds to the sense of, are they really doing the right thing? Because the less information you know in regards to the operations they're doing kind of makes you question it more. And that adds to another thing that I love about this movie that I didn't really pick up on the first time I saw it, but I definitely got it now the second time seeing it, is the morality of what it is they're actually doing. And most of this is shown through Josh Brolin's performance and Benicio del Toro's performance. Even though, especially in regards to Josh Brolin's character, you can tell they are technically the good guys, it's the way they go about handling it that kind of seems a little off. And that heavily applies to Benicio del Toro's character, because he plays a character that doesn't work for the CIA, he doesn't work for the cartels, he's just kind of his own thing, which kind of makes you always think twice about, like, can he really be trusted? Because there are times where he genuinely seems like a nice person, and he looks out for characters like Kate. But then there are other times where he's probably the deadliest person in the room, and you really aren't sure whether you can trust him. So I really liked that sense of challenging the sense of morality in this job that they do. And I think that the way it's portrayed through those three main characters was really well written and really well handled in the directing sense. Now, when I first saw this movie a couple of years ago, the thing that bugged me the most was probably its pacing, because I thought, yeah, that was a good movie, but by God was it slow. And luckily, after watching it a second time, I think the slow pacing actually works. It's kind of got this gradual slow pace to it, but nothing as slow or monotonous as, say, Blade Runner 2049 can get. It's kind of got a gradual pace to it, but it's still pretty slow by comparing it to most other movies that were tackling the same subjects. And I actually think it works, because there are times where the slope, like, you'll get a really intense or really kind of disturbing scene, and then the slow pacing drags on after that, and having it being so slow helps you really make it sink in just that bit more. If it was a bit fast paced, then I feel like these more graphic and more intense moments won't have the time to sink in. It would just be disturbing scene, okay, and now we're on to the next one. It doesn't do that. For example, after the opening scene, which is pretty fucking disgusting, to be honest, but in a good way, the scene that happens straight after is Kate in the shower washing blood out of her hair. And it's the moments after that that you do really think about what the fuck just happened, and it does sink in that bit more, and it just gives it that much more disturbing impact that I really didn't get the first time round, which is why I'm glad I saw it a second time before doing this review, because I feel like my opinion on the pacing has changed. But as well as having those moments sink in, it also works later on in the film when you get some really tense moments, whether it be the border crossing scene, which is just phenomenally executed, or the aforementioned nighttime scene, which utilises multiple different camera techniques. The slow pacing for those really tense-filled scenes works, but it also works to emphasise some of the more disturbing and horrific moments in the film, and lets them sink in, ready for the tense moments. I suppose my only main criticism with the movie now is the fact that the story really isn't anything special. If it had been handled by someone else, then it probably would have come across as very cliched and very predictable, because it does hit a lot of beats that you expect to see in a movie like this. But the fact that it's done by Denis Villeneuve, and the way he worked with the actors and Roger Deakins, really elevates it to a completely higher level than, say, if someone was going to take it and turn it into a generic, action film. And it really elevates it and gives it a much better sense of artistry, and it, you can actually tell they knew what they were doing with this movie. If it had been handled by someone else, then it probably wouldn't have been as good as it is. And I'm not saying that the writing is bad, because Taylor Sheridan did a very good job writing this movie. But again, the plot and the beats that it goes down, if handled by someone else, could have been really boring and actually kind of shit. In the end, I'm going to give Sicario an 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, it's not one of my favourite Denis Villeneuve films, but it still is a really good movie. The acting, the visuals, and just everything from a technical standpoint in this movie is really strong, but I don't think it has that sense of rewatchability that his other movies have, such as Prisoners or Arrival. So guys, that was my review for Sicario. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Bye!